To all the skeptics in the comments, I promise this is my actual biological voice you're hearing, not an AI, it's 100% organic. I haven't had a firmware update in years. If you're here because a YouTube ad tricked you into thinking Star Trek was still about exploring the final frontier, rather than exploring the depths of a writer's room mid-identity crisis, this one's for you. We are living through the slow-motion car crash of a multi-billion-dollar legacy, and frankly, the debris is starting to smell like desperate, corporate greed and onion sentimentality. And let's dive into the wreckage. Welcome to the era of Kurtzman Trek, a period of television history where beloved franchises aren't just revived, they are dug up, reanimated with a massive budget, and forced to perform like a caffeinated corpse for your monthly subscription fee. It's a specialized form of Hollywood necromancy. You see, Paramount doesn't actually want to make Star Trek, they want to make content, a vague gelatinous substance, designed to fill the void of a streaming service that most people only have because they forgot to cancel their trial after the Super Bowl. The problem with Zombie Trek is that it lacks a soul. It's got the badges, the phasers, the lens flares that could blind a god, but it doesn't have the heart. The original series, and the next generation era, were built on the idea that the future could be better, that we could be smarter, that humanity could grow out of its tribalistic nonsense. Kurtzman looked at that and said, that's cool, but what if everyone was miserable, and the universe was always about to explode? It's cynical filmmaking at its finest. They take a character you loved as a child like Jean-Luc Picard, and turn him into a frail, confused old man who gets bullied by his own housekeeping staff. This isn't world building, it's world demolition. They are strip mining our nostalgia to build a parking lot for mediocre action sequences and mystery boxes that never actually contain anything worth opening. We went from Captain Picard debating the ethics of existence and the Prime Directive to a group of emotional toddlers crying in space. It's less Star Trek and more Dawson's Creek with phasers. Remember when Star Trek was about big ideas? Remember The Measure of a Man, where the entire episode was basically a courtroom drama about whether an android had a soul? That's gone. In its place, we have Michael Burnham whispering through tears, while the entire galaxy hangs in the balance, for the 5th time this week. The emotional stakes in modern Trek are handled with the subtlety of a warp core breach. Every character is perpetually one "I see you" or "I hear you" away from a total mental breakdown. I'm not saying Starfleet officers shouldn't have feelings, but maybe they shouldn't be processing their childhood trauma while the ship is being shot at by Klingons. There is no stoicism left. There is no professional decorum. It's a ship full of people who would be fired from a Starbucks for being too unstable, yet they are supposedly the elite of the Federation. This shift from philosophy to feelings has turned a high-concept sci-fi show into a space soap opera, where the science is just a backdrop for who is currently having a therapeutic breakthrough in the middle of a bridge battle. The new Starfleet Academy series is being pitched as Harry Potter meets Trek, but it plays out more like a high school drama where the stakes are low and the cringe is intergalactic. Imagine the most annoying TikTok trends of today, but translated into the 32nd century. This show seems designed specifically for people who find the actual exploration part of Star Trek too boring and would rather watch teenagers argue about who they're taking to the prom asteroid. By leaning into the YA genre, the writers are effectively saying that the core audience of Star Trek doesn't matter anymore. They want the Gen Z demographic, but they're doing it by writing characters that Gen Z would find embarrassing. The dialogue feels like it was written by a committee of 50-year-olds who just learned what slay means and are trying to use it in a sentence about dilithium crystals. Starfleet Academy used to be a prestigious institution that produced legends like Kirk and Sisko. Now it looks like a liberal arts college where everyone has a podcast, and the biggest threat to the Federation is someone using the wrong pronoun for a hoarder, because nothing says the 32nd century like a Betazoid YouTuber. Apparently, in the future, even with faster-than-light travel and the ability to synthesize any food you want, we still can't escape the horror of, don't forget to like and subscribe. This is the peak of the writer's room running out of ideas. They looked at the most annoying aspects of 2024 culture and thought, yes, this will definitely still be a thing in 1,000 years. The Betazoid influencer character is a microcosm of everything wrong with modern Trek. It's a desperate attempt to be relatable that completely ignores the internal logic of the world. In a post-scarcity society where money doesn't exist and everyone's needs are met, why would anyone be an influencer? What are they influencing? The trade of self-sealing stem bolts, its creative bankruptcy so profound, it makes you wonder if anyone in the writer's room has actually read a science fiction book that wasn't a menu at a vegan cafe. Its relatability as a weapon, used to bludgeon the audience until they accept that the future is just as vapid and social media obsessed as the present. We've got Klingons who want to be doctors, and plot twists that make less sense than a screen door on a submarine. If you're looking for internal consistency, you're in the wrong quadrant. The writing in modern Trek treats logic as an optional DLC that the producers refuse to pay for. We have ships that can travel across the universe in a second using mushrooms, yes mushrooms, but then they spend 3 episodes stuck in a nebula because the plot demands it. The science in this science fiction has been replaced by magic that sounds like science. Characters will yell out a string of technobabble, and then the problem is solved by believing in yourself. It's insulting. Fans of Star Trek used to take pride in the harder edge of its sci-fi, the way it tried to ground its fantastical elements in some semblance of theoretical physics. Now, it's whatever the plot needs it to be. A character can be dead 1 minute and resurrected by a nanobot hug the next. There are no consequences, no rules, and therefore no tension. Critics are giving this an 87%, while audiences are sitting at a 43%. It's a classic case of professional reviewers watching a different show than the people who actually have to pay for it. This is the great gaslighting of the modern era. Access journalism has created a world where critics are more afraid of losing their invite to the premiere than they are of telling the truth about a mediocre show. When you read a professional review of modern Star Trek, you'll see words like bold, reimagined, and necessary. When you talk to an actual fan, you'll hear words like boring, nonsensical, and why is everyone crying? The disconnect is so wide, you could fly a Sovereign-class starship through it. The critics are reviewing the intent, the diversity of the cast, the message, the expensive-looking CGI, while the audience is reviewing the execution. And the execution is, quite frankly, a mess. In a move of absolute desperation, Paramount put the first episode of their flagship show on YouTube for free to widen exposure. The result? The dislike button got more action than the actual script. It turns out that when you give something away for free, people feel even more entitled to tell you exactly why it sucks. The comments section of that video was a digital war zone, a graveyard of hope, where fans went to mourn the franchise in real time. Paramount thought they were opening the doors to a new generation of fans. Instead, they just opened a window so everyone could see the house was on fire. Putting the show on YouTube was an admission that their own streaming platform is a ghost town, and that the only way to get eyeballs on the screen is to shove it in front of people who are just trying to watch 10 hours of relaxing Minecraft music. But even for free, the bounce rate was legendary. People tuned in, saw 3 minutes of whisper crying, and went back to watching a guy polish a rusty knife. Let's be real, Star Trek has always been political. It was born in the 60s as a vehicle for social commentary. But the difference between Roddenberry's Trek and Kurtzman's Trek is the difference between a surgical scalpel and a sledgehammer. Modern Trek doesn't want to start a conversation. It wants to give you a lecture while you're trying to relax on your couch. The activism isn't woven into the story. It is the story. And the sci-fi elements are just the annoying things that get in the way of the sermon. When the writing becomes secondary to the agenda, the characters stop being people and start being avatars for a specific viewpoint. You can feel the writers checking boxes off a list. It feels forced, artificial, and, worst of all, condescending. It treats the audience like they're too stupid to understand a nuanced metaphor. So it just has a character turn to the camera and explain the moral of the story in the most on-the-nose way possible. It's not bold to have a message. It's bold to have a message that doesn't ruin the pacing of your show. The dialogue in modern Trek relies so heavily on modern slang and current-year speech patterns that it'll be dated by next Tuesday. It is the definitive, how do you do, fellow kids of sci-fi writing. In the 90s, the characters spoke with a certain formal naval cadence. It gave the world gravity. Now they talk like they're in a Slack channel for a tech startup in San Francisco. This is the power of math. One character screams as if the concept of addition was just discovered. Slay, another might as well be saying. By trying so hard to be of the moment, the show guarantees that it will have no longevity. Watching these episodes in 5 years will be like looking at a Keep Calm and Carry On poster, a cringy relic of a very specific, very annoying moment in time. The future shouldn't sound like a Twitter thread. It should sound like a civilization that has evolved past the need for clout. People tuned in for the premiere out of morbid curiosity and fled faster than a red shirt in a clearing. The charts aren't just dropping, they're hitting terminal velocity. You can see it in the social media engagement, the Google Trends, and the frantic way Paramount is trying to rebrand every 6 months. The audience is shrinking, and the people who are staying are mostly hate-watching, or are so deep in the sunk cost fallacy that they can't let go. The viewership nosedive is the ultimate reality check that no amount of corporate spin can fix. You can buy all the 5-star critic reviews you want, but you can't force people to watch a show they don't like. The general audience that Paramount is so desperately chasing doesn't exist for this version of Trek. They've alienated the old fans and failed to capture new ones, because the show has no clear identity. It's a prestige drama that isn't prestigious, and a sci-fi show that hates science. In a move of peak corporate delusion, the show was renewed for season 2, before the first episode even aired. It's like ordering a second cake before realizing the first one was made of cardboard and spite. This is a common tactic in the streaming wars, renewing a show early to create the illusion of success. If they renew it, it must be good, right? Wrong. It's a defensive crouch. They've spent so much money on the sets and the contracts that they literally can't afford for it to fail. So they double down on the disaster. They are trapped in a loop of their own making, throwing good money after bad, hoping that eventually if they keep making it, someone will start liking it. It's not a content strategy, it's a hostage situation. And we the fans are the ones being held at phaser point. But space is big, and the audience has plenty of other places to go. Places where the writers actually know the difference between a character arc and a mental breakdown.